mean,
Yeah.
if you can be raised in an environment where you know you are free to feel something and it's not going to affect the other person around you, you're like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are raised in a way where we don't feel comfortable feeling something ourselves because someone else is going to judge us. So
Yeah.
then we go out in the world, we're trying to date, we're trying to build a family, we're trying to work with other people, have best friends, and we don't know how to connect. But the crux of connection is intimacy and vulnerability. So it's really the antithesis of having the best thing in life, which is people around you that you love.
Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to the Best You podcast. My name is Nick Carrier, body optimization coach and creator of the 10-Week Transformation. The mission of this show is to help you get closer to the best version of yourself in all areas so that you can live a more meaningful and impactful life. In today's episode, we have MJ Renshaw. MJ is a breathwork guide, and she's the best-selling author of the book, How to Cry, Release Stuck Emotions, and Find Freedom. Now, just to be completely honest with you and transparent, when I first stumbled upon her work, I was like, she wrote a book called How to Cry. Like, am I really interested in learning about this? But wow. MJ absolutely crushed this episode, and I was so impressed with her knowledge around emotional intelligence, and emotional agility, and I just thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. We dove into the real work of emotional health, how to stop avoiding the things that trigger us, how to process hard emotions like anger and fear, and how to raise emotionally resilient kids without bypassing our own needs. MJ offers science-backed and soul-led strategies for moving through emotions instead of just getting stuck in them. And as a guy who maybe doesn't show his emotions enough, this episode is super impactful for me, and I know it will be for you as well. So it's time to get practical with something that doesn't necessarily seem super practical, our emotions. It's time to get closer to your best you. Let's dive in. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Best You podcast. Today, I am super excited to be joined by the one and only MJ Renshaw. This one is going to be probably different than a lot of podcasts that we've done in the past. She is an author of a book that has come out just a couple months ago called How to Cry, Release Stuck Emotions, and Find Freedom. And I don't know if any of you guys who are males who are listening, who's been told by maybe your significant other or spouse, girlfriend, whatever, that you need to feel your emotions and process your emotions a little bit better. I know I've been told that a time or two, and so this is going to be great for a lot of guys out there, going to be great for a lot of females out there as well. But I think one of the things that you say is really important for us to know. Like, we live in a world that tells us to hold it together, stay strong, and keep going. But unprocessed emotions, they don't disappear, but they build up and get stored in the body and eventually show up as anxiety, illness, or numbness. And that's something that, like, I believe theoretically that built up stress that doesn't get processed and emotions that don't get processed probably do end up leading to disease. But it is one of those things where it's like, can that really be true? So I'm excited to dive into a lot of stuff today around this idea, but I want to kind of get into your personal story just a little bit to begin with. I know that around maybe 4 years ago or so, or maybe a little bit longer than that, you kind of started this business, and you didn't really have any followers. You changed careers. You had two kids back to back, and right now they're 2 and 3 years old. So this was not necessarily the most ideal time, I guess, to start a business from that perspective, from the time, energy, and attention perspective. So what went into the decision to starting your own business at that particular time?
Um, Thank you. Thank you. That was a great introduction. So I was a student osteopath. I was 4.5 years into a 5-year program, about to graduate to be an osteopath. And I was already working with clients or patients at the time. And I felt like there was something missing in my ability to help them. A lot of people were coming back with the same repetitive chronic issues, whether it be a gut issue or a shoulder issue. So I started very much in the science, physiology, anatomy realm. And I'm also a spiritual girly. Like, I will, there's a lot of meditation happening here. There's a lot of crystals around my house. I kind of have both of those worlds happening simultaneously within my being and also just around me in my environment. So I think step one was that I didn't feel fully aligned in my career. And step two was that I felt like there was a missing component with what I was doing with my patients at the time. So I felt like there was more to the story. I really got into Gabor Mate at the time. I was really, really interested in people like Joe Dispenza, looking at what's going on with our mind and what's going on with trauma and things like generational trauma, and how is this interplaying with what we're experiencing today? Someone who has chronic back pain, someone who has migraines, or whatever you would go see an osteopath for. So I honestly, I just really, to my mom's dismay and to my husband's horror, I dropped out of school. Everybody, just if you're ever wondering like what it's like to just completely reroute your life, it's amazing, but people around you will be shocked. Um, and I just had to tell them straight out, like, I have to do this. Like, I just have this feeling in me that this is the path I'm meant to go on. And I've always been that kind of person. My mom would say obstinate or willful, all of those really fun, you know, euphemisms that people
Yeah.
use. And I started the business. I was marathon training at the time. I was doing my last long run. It was super slow, and I took a pregnancy test, and I was pregnant. So it was like everything was happening at the same time, but everything's worked out.
Did you run the marathon?
No, no, I didn't. I
Okay.
had I had already had a miscarriage, and I was like, I don't really want to
Yeah.
put myself like it's very stressful on your body.
Right.
So I was like, okay, no marathon. I still haven't ran one.
So you did not end up graduating from that 5-year program 4.5 years in.
No, no, no. And you know what? I don't believe that you have to finish something just because you started or just because you put money into it. I use the
Yeah.
anatomy and physiology I learned all the time. I don't have the piece of paper. It doesn't matter. I don't want to work as one. I never would. My business does really well, and I am not stuck in an office all the time.
Yeah. No, I actually I really like that because I'm kind of the person that I believe in that concept as well. I don't necessarily follow it through as much as maybe I should in some instances of you don't have to see something all the way through to just to check the box, because I feel like I do that sometimes because I'm just kind of like a I love to check the box kind of guy, but at the same time there is that idea of like sunk costs. Sometimes we just do it because we've already put so much effort into it and we feel like we just need to see it all the way through, but sometimes it's actually you do need to pivot, you do need to change paths. Did you
That I
know?
think the thing is like, are people depending on you? Then stick it through. You got to show up. Like you have to have integrity. But if it's just you figuring out what you're going to do with your life, you don't owe it to anyone.
Mm,
Like you just have to forge your own path.
that's actually such a good point. I was actually had a retreat a little over a month ago with a bunch of people in my community, and one of the questions came up of how do you know when it's time to give up something? And that's such a good part of, there's probably a lot of different things that we could come up with if we really sat and thought about it, but that's such a good one. Is somebody else depending on you to do this? Because if so, then it's like, okay, you're responsible not just to yourself but to that person. And so that's a really good thing to bring up. Did you know exactly what your business was going to look like when you made this shift?
I had an idea. I know that I wanted it to be scientific and also spiritual. That was my thing. I had already been breathwork certified years before, and I was starting to really implement it day to day in my life. Like that's when Wim Hof got really big. My husband and I were doing that. We were doing, Joe Dispenza. I was blending it with my different kind of breathwork techniques that I knew. I was infertile at the time, and now I'm very much not. So I went on like my own personal healing journey, and then that spurred the idea of being like, okay, if I want to help people in this different route where I really truly believe that sometimes we can't release trauma by just thinking about it or talking about it or, being really in our heads, cerebral, reading about it. It's got to be something experienced and felt. Then breathwork was like the perfect thing because it was doing what I wanted it to do to other people, but for me. And I was like, amazing, let's do breathwork.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we're gonna get obviously into that stuff in a little bit, but I'm just curious about you. You're a fascinating person. The you have, like you said, both sides of kind of the coin, if you will. You came from a science background, physiology, anatomy, but you also called yourself a spiritual girly. Is that something that has been cultivated through experience, or is that part of your personality, or how do you have both sides of that?
um, I think my parents, like definitely my parents were both pretty, they were very kind of out there. Like my dad always believed that he was like psychically connected to us, but they were really like grounded people, like very practical, pragmatic. So I think I just grew up with the, my great grandfather, not my great grandfather, just my grandfather. He was an engineer, but he also worked as a medium. So I had all these expanders in my life of people showing me like those aren't separate worlds. Like you
Mm,
can believe in ghosts and have cool stories there, but also be a mechanical engineer.
yeah. No, totally. I do think that uh, the best is having a little bit of both sides for sure because they both have plenty of utility. I think one of the things that I mentioned to you a little bit right before we hopped on, as we hear oftentimes nowadays the message that males don't know how to process their emotions or feel their emotions or whatnot. And as somebody who's a big reader and big podcast listener, I've heard that all the time. And I try to sometimes analyze myself. Do I fit in that bucket? And obviously it's not usually always 100% yes, 100% no. It's probably like sometimes yes, sometimes no. But as somebody personally, and there's probably other people who feel a certain level of the same way as well. Like, how do you know if you're somebody who does struggle to deal with your emotions and process your emotions properly? Like, how do I know if I'm that kind of person?
Yeah, I think there's several clues in our life that we can look for. One is like, how comfortable do you feel being seen
Mm.
by someone intimately in your life? Like if a child starts screaming and having a tantrum around you, how do you feel? Are you comfortable sitting there and holding space for that child? Or are you like, like you have to go to your room? You know what I mean? Like, are you so like, and they're not doing anything bad or wrong. They're just crying. So like, how comfortable with you are you with holding space for someone else to just have an emotion? If
Mm.
someone comes to you and says like, hey, what you did to me really hurt my feelings. Do you get defensive or are you just like, oh, like, I'm sorry you feel that way? How you can tell almost immediately how someone is in terms of their emotional intelligence, which just means do they know what emotions they are having? And do they know how to hold space for emotions that you are having? And do they think emotions are even valid at all? We've got a lot of programming to think that if you feel sad, you are weak. If you feel jealous, you are toxic. If you feel angry, you're problematic. But those are just emotions, right? We can choose actions beyond that that can step into the realm of being obviously harmful, inappropriate, but to just feel jealousy is not wrong.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of the great things that I was probably going to dive into later, but I want to go ahead and get into it. Is you talk about how somebody who is emotionally intelligent can detach their emotions from maybe their thoughts and their actions. But you also talk about how this isn't something that we're born with and we come out of the womb with. It's a skill that we have to develop a little bit. How do we become somebody who is able to just recognize an emotion, not necessarily judge ourselves for the emotion, and then act or do more intelligently rather than let it take us?
Nervous system regulation usually comes down to that. And that could be your pick your tool. There's so many of them out there. I love breath work. I love it because it is the nervous system's like remote control. If you want to put yourself into a sympathetic state, have more energy, just breathe it differently. If you want to be more calm, create more space between an event, your emotions, your actions, your thoughts, breathe more slowly. We are all designed without a doubt, 100% of us to have a certain physiological reaction to certain types of breathing. So across the board, everybody can change their physiological state with breath work, which is why I love it. It's so accessible and really works for anybody,
Yeah,
everybody.
totally. Now, so give me some examples then of different ways to implement breathwork because breathwork is a big word that has a lot of different implementations.
Thanks. So
And so,
let's use
like,
the example of someone who struggles with anger.
okay,
So they're driving through traffic and like all of a sudden you're punching your steering wheel. You just have you're like a hair trigger away from just yelling. You're very angry. Maybe, you struggle with yelling at people in your life or just getting really angry really quickly at different things. Totally common. We are not taught how to deal with anger, man or woman, right? It doesn't matter who you are. Women a little bit more shamed for anger,
mm,
and men it's a little bit more acceptable, but still nobody's taught. And it's a really healthy emotion. Like anger is healthy. So You could use breath work, I would say, in two different ways to help you with anger. The first would be to learn in the moment calm breathing. So you're in traffic, or, in my case, one of my kids has done something that really triggers me. I can slow my breathing, get into my body, and start to understand, create a little bit more space between me getting triggered by that event and what I'm going to do and say after it. Because I wasn't taught how to emotionally regulate myself by my parents. They were not taught either. So I'm the first generation in my family who's trying to teach this simultaneously to little people and myself at the same time. And a lot of other people can relate to that. It's tricky.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to show them in real time, this is what I'm doing. I talk my kids through it. I say like, whoa, I feel really like frustrated by that. I'm going to do some deep breathing. And then just outside, my daughter felt really frustrated by something and she sat down and did her deep breathing. So that's one way. Another way is if you've got, maybe a deep-seated trauma, and it doesn't even have to be yours. Like it literally could be generational. It could be that you have a great great grandfather who went to war and it had these horrible experiences, and that's been passed down epigenetically to you. So you've got issues with an emotion now. You've got anger issues, and they might not be yours. They might be yours. It's from an event in the past. It's your defense system. So as soon as your nervous system starts to kind of get, am I going to be rejected here? Or does this person maybe not love me? Or am I in danger? I'm going to fight, right? It's a very normal nervous system reaction. But you could, for instance, do a longer, more intense breathwork session, which is like the ones we see on Instagram a lot, holotropic breathwork, transformational breathwork. We call it sympathetic breathwork because you're just putting yourself in a sympathetic state. But it's amazing for releasing trauma stored in the body. People have wild experiences. We hear everything from I healed, something that happened to me when I was bullied, to I was visited by my dead dad, to I went to a different planet. We hear it all. And a lot of like birth trauma stories, very common. But people just have these profound experiences. I mean, there's many different reasons for that. There's theories. Um, People think that you are releasing endogenous DMT when you breathe in a certain way for longer
What
periods
is
of
that?
time. DMT,
Yeah.
it's a endogenous drug that's created by your body that gives you profound experiences. So some people take exogenous DMT. I can't remember. It's dimethyltryptophan. I can't remember the long compound name, but it's essentially a drug that you can take that gives you like a really profound godlike experience. But it's stored, again, this is like, who knows? They have cut open rats and found that it's stored in the lungs in rats. So people have theorized that potentially this is what's happening during breath work, but no one's really studying breath work that intense. So we don't know. There's another theory called exhaustion theory. So you're just exhausting yourself enough to the point where you don't hold back anything. You don't have the energy to hold back anything. I'm not 100% sure, but we do know just in terms of people's experiences that they are having spiritual experiences and very healing experiences and feeling free of trauma that they have experienced in the past.
So you said you call it sympathetic breath work. What does this look like?
Yeah, so typically people are laying down and, between the span of 15 minutes to 2 hours, depending on what kind of breath work you're doing, you're just breathing in a way where your inhales are extended longer than your exhales. So it kind of is like something like this. So you're panting almost. So you're putting yourself in that like sympathetic state. It's going to change the pH of your blood. It's going to change your nervous system into a sympathetic nervous system state. But it's almost like people are always like, "Oh, bad. I don't want that." But I'm like, it's a hormetic stress, right? So it's like working out, cold plunge, sauna, anything along that realm. It's going to be stressful for a short amount of time to make you more resilient long term. And I think people, especially in the wellness world, especially in the biohacking world, people have completely forgotten that your emotional health is a part of the health of your body. If you want proper hormones, if you want, um, gains, if you want to perform better, you have to be looking at the emotional side of yourself as well, because that will hold you back, especially as an athlete. We've done this tennis studies where it was just like the people who excelled in tennis by far were just the people who had really positive mental things to say to themselves. And like, it's very hard to think positively about yourself if you are storing shame.
Yeah, totally. You said that this type of breathing, this panting type of breathing where your inhales are longer than your exhales, somebody could do it for 15 minutes to 2 hours laying down, if you will, is, I mean, I would assume they'd have to take breaks during that period of time because it seems like it'd be something that would be somewhat exhausting to do it. So is there a particular methodology to you do that for 30 breaths, then you rest a minute and then you do it again? Or like, how does that look like?
There's a lot. I'm a little bit unique in the breathwork world for this. I
Okay.
don't believe in that stuff. So I really want, when I'm working with a client, I want them to tune into their body and tune into what their needs are because there's
Yeah.
no algorithm that's
No specific
designed for
protocol.
every person, right?
Yeah.
Like I weigh 110, but if I give what feels good for me and my body to a guy that weighs 220, he probably has a bigger lung capacity than me.
Yeah.
What's going to feel good for me is not going to feel good for him. So I always say you can take a break when you need to, but like tune in and know that like you control the throttle
Yeah.
of how far this is going to go and how deep of an experience you're going to go. I don't believe in pushing people to have that experience because it usually just puts them into a freeze state of their nervous system.
Mm.
They've got to pick up the sword and they've got to go in themselves.
Yeah.
You can't drag someone into their healing. Like I want people to be empowered. I want them to have that feeling of like, all right, let's go. I'm going to go face this and I'm going to have a profound spiritual experience and look at the world completely differently.
Do you coach people to like lay on their back, keep their eyes open, keep their eyes closed?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it. I would say like the thing is like you have to be laying down because you can pass out. You don't want to do it driving. You don't want to do it in the bath.
Okay.
There's certain contraindications, like if you're pregnant, if you have any diagnosis with your heart, probably not a good idea. If you have psychosis, definitely don't.
Yeah.
Um, so there's contraindications. You have to be safe. But yeah, laying down. Don't be sitting up.
Okay. Yeah, you don't that. Yeah, definitely don't want to have that lead to a concussion or anything like that. This is great. This is great. So I want to kind of dive into one of the things that you're pretty open with in your book is some of the trauma that you've gone through and some of the people that you've lost in your life. When you were 14, your older brother died in a car accident. When you were 23, your father committed suicide. You had a miscarriage of your first child. I know that you're still on this journey of learning how to process emotions and grief and all that kind of stuff. So, how have you gotten to the point of managing those emotions that maybe still do come up when you think about those situations? Yeah, how do you, when they do come up now? How do you work on processing those emotions so that they, I guess, don't negatively overcome you?
Yeah, I think when people have adverse things happen to them, we kind of start to close our heart off a little bit to the world. Like you don't want to feel that pain. You don't want to feel the grief, the sadness, the
Yeah,
fear, all those things that happen. So you start to kind of shut the doors to life. And I always tell people if you're going to shut the door on grief or if you're going to shut the door on sadness, you're also shutting the door on joy, love, all the good stuff too, because we can't selectively block an emotion. You're either feeling the full experience of life or you're not, or you're somewhere in between. Obviously, it's a scale, but
yeah,
I think for me, it's just been a gradual, just to like use an analogy, it's just been a gradual opening up of my heart again to the world. And the thing I always, and I wrote this in the book, is when you open yourself up to feeling things, you're going to get that love in too. You're going to get that joy in too. You're going to feel the polarity of all the emotions. Humans were not designed to not feel certain emotions that we're designed to have, right? Like that doesn't make sense. We are designed to feel those emotions. That's why we have them. They serve a
yeah.
purpose. So that's kind of been my path is just trying to open up again. And the way I do that is regulating my nervous system using breath work.
Mm. So, like, if you were to be sitting around on the couch one day and that thought comes up and you have that experience of grief, do you go specifically into just controlling your breathing, keeping it slow? it like what does that actually look like when you're trying to live out processing it in real time?
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends. For me, the work has been being more comfortable with having emotion. So, like, I was a very shut down person. Some people cry, like my best friend, she cries all the time, cries
Mm.
very easily. Every time we talk, she's crying. Um, so for me, it's been about more about opening up. So for I have to be very present in the moment where I notice myself starting to maybe cry. I have to work against how I've trained myself, which is to shut that down, shut that door, don't feel that. I have to say like, okay, I'm going to go further into this.
Yeah.
And it can be really scary sometimes when you're not used to it, but I always tell people you're probably going to feel that emotion for 90 seconds.
Mm. Gotcha. That's good. That's good. Definitely would is the hard decision to make. I feel like all of us have unlimited amount of ways to distract us from emotions, and it's just so easy. And so we always just
That is
turn
addiction.
to
That's
yeah.
every single addiction that people
Right.
have. If you find yourself reaching for anything in life, you are avoiding an emotion. It's that simple.
Mm. Oof. Yeah, that's tough. Anytime we people are bored sitting around. I was sitting on a plane on a flight back a couple days ago from San Francisco to Nashville, and everybody who's just sitting there gets bored and feels a particular way, pulls up their phone and tries to block it immediately.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, Gabor Mate's done great work here where you're looking at someone who has experienced trauma. They don't know how to release that trauma, let it go. It's stored in their body. They feel uncomfortable in certain situations that are triggering. And as soon as that comes about, they're going to reach for something to distract themselves, whether it's drugs, alcohol, your cell phone,
Yeah.
your vaping, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it just becomes this like chronic part of your life.
Totally. I think it's on a similar note in terms of like working through emotions that we tend to avoid. There's a couple of or one good example in the book that I think a lot of people will relate to, and then I'll add an additional one is how oftentimes somebody might not open up their banking account because they know that it's going to trigger a negative emotion, a stress, a fear, anxiety, whatever it might be, because the number in the account's not going to say or show what they would like it to show. And I know for me, I'm a fitness trainer, nutrition coach, and oftentimes people might not step on the scale because they're afraid of what that number is going to reflect back to them and how they're going to process that emotionally. And I'm the type of fitness trainer, nutrition coach where I'm like, no, the scale is not something that defines your worth. It's not something that you should identify as. But at the same time, like if you just continue to avoid it, it's not going to help. It might help in the moment by not having that negative emotion, but it's not going to help long term because at some point you're going to go to your annual physical and you're going to step on it again. And it's going to have a bigger emotional impact if you hadn't stepped on it in a year than if you had stepped on it, a few times the past week. So when somebody has that thing, whether it's the bank account, the number on the scale, insert a number of things that people could have those kinds of reactions to. How can somebody, if they have that particular emotional reaction to something, work on not letting it impact them as much as it currently does?
Yeah, I think the first step is just taking inventory of your life, like noticing what am I avoiding
Yeah.
because I just don't want to feel something. And like you'll come to learn that it's so insidious. It could be conversations with people. Just like you could just avoid someone completely because you're scared of what they're going to say or
Yeah.
like you're mentioning good ones. Anything to do with love, money, health, people get really freaked out about. There's a lot on the line. We want those things really bad.
Totally. I mean, and like I'm only a year into marriage, and there's times when I'm think about not bringing up some small conversation, but I try to get myself, it's like it might seem small in the moment, but the small avoidances in the moment only build up, and so I get myself to, as much as I can, probably not perfect at it, to not avoid the conversation or the question or whatnot. And
No,
so
it's so good. That's
you're right,
like
taking note of it is the
marriage
first
is
step.
such a good arena to notice these things because it is the mirror for your healing. Like it's
Mm.
like going to ask you every week to grow a little bit. That's how you have a good relationship is by growing together and noticing these different things. And I love the analogy of marriage because it is relationships can be so healing and so harming. And you
Mm.
get to choose within a marriage what it's going to look like. So if a lot of us have, wounds, trauma, attachment wounds from our parents, and you can heal that within your marriage if you guys are both open to opening your hearts to each other, um, which is so beautiful.
Totally. Totally. So if somebody is the person who won't ask the question to their significant other because they're whatever, because they know emotion's going to come up. They're fearful of what they're going to say or how they're going to react. Somebody won't open their bank account because they don't like the number. Somebody won't step on the scale. How does that? They've taken note of it. They're like, okay, I know this is something that I avoid. Yeah.
I'm going to shock everybody here by what I'm going to say.
Okay.
You're going to do breath work. Um,
Okay.
if it's the banking thing, pick a time, pick up your cell phone, breathe slowly.
Mm.
Allow yourself to face it. You got to face it. And you got to feel the emotion. Like it's going to be shame, could be shock, could be pleasantly surprised. Who knows? You haven't looked at it in a while.
Yeah.
Maybe someone accidentally gave you $100,000. But it is that this is, I was talking to my husband the other day about being an entrepreneur. Like I run a business, we do really well. And the top skill by far I've had to learn is just being able to regulate my own nervous system and my own emotions because every single day you are solving big problems. People are freaking out around you. And
Yeah.
you have to be able to be like, okay, we're going to take care of this. We will fix this. And it's the same with being a parent. It's the same with if you're an athlete, it doesn't matter who you are. It's kind of the secret sauce to being successful, I would say. We've all experienced the person where we're watching them just completely destroy their own success by having no idea of what they're feeling or how they're feeling it and being triggered all the time. I've had the bosses who I'm just like, wow, you have no emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
They're just getting angry. They're yelling at their team. They're making things worse. And it's just their emotions. Like it's all emotional. So I would say it's like it is a skill that is can be tricky to learn, but it is invaluable.
Yeah. That because to stick on this topic and specifically like the number on the scale because I experience it a lot. I go the logical route in being like the number doesn't define who you are. It's not about your self-worth. This
Yeah,
is
but
this
that's all up
is
here,
right.
right? This is why it doesn't work. It's like we can logically think something a million times. And like this is coming from someone who I believe in affirmations, okay?
Yeah.
So I believe in that stuff, but the number of times you have to say something to yourself or your subconscious in your body to actually get it is a lot. So I always say step one, if you're doing something scary, choose to put yourself in a safe environment. Feel safe in your body, feel safe with who you're with, feel safe with what you're doing. Create safety, create calm, grounded centeredness. That's going to be able to help you make a decision to do something hard.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm kind of wrestling through this idea in my mind of, like I said, I oftentimes try to go logical routes that don't always work with certain people. We need to get into our bodies a little bit more. And one of the things that I've learned before and even practiced before myself is writing down something that's called future truths. I am if I don't feel like I'm a great entrepreneur right now, I am a great entrepreneur. If I don't feel like I'm somebody who eats healthy right now, I am a healthy eater. The identity is that you want to live into, saying that to yourself over and over again.
That's affirmation. I mean, I would even go, it's funny because I was going to go the other way.
Okay.
I was going to say, write down all the worst stuff. Like, what's going to happen? You're going to see on the scale that you weigh 20 pounds more than you want to. What does that mean? Oh, someone might call you fat. Okay, what does that mean? That they are fat phobic. What does that mean? Like, it doesn't matter, right? I feel
Mm,
like for me, sometimes I like to go into this is called shadow work.
okay.
We have this in our membership where it's just sometimes you just got to go into what is the worst case and is it even that bad? And sometimes when you shine a light on it, you realize it doesn't really matter. Like, who am I worried about
Yeah.
seeing or knowing? And do they even matter? Are they the kind of person that I would want to be and I look up to? No. Most of the time, anyone who's got anything negative to say, I don't look at their life and think, wow, like super person there. I'm always like, that sucks to be in that state. I'm not walking around thinking negative things about people. I'm walking around thinking about how I want to change the world. So if you're, you're always going to bump up against people who are going to think something about you, or um, things that are going to trigger you to think a certain thing about yourself. But you have the power to kind of remove the weight of those things.
Mm.
So write down, like, what am I scared of seeing?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, I'm scared of people thinking I'm a scammer, I'm, ugly, like whatever. And like sometimes when you go into it, it just really removes the power of it because you're like, this is so silly. Like, what? I'm not in high school. I'm a
Yeah.
grown human being. And these are my beliefs and this is my moral compass. I don't think that anyone who weighs 20 pounds over is worthless. I don't think that. So why would I think that about myself?
Yeah, totally. I love that. I think that diving into potential worst case scenarios can sometimes be so, like you said, relieving, because if you really dissect it, then
Tim
it
Ferriss
becomes,
does this all the time because he's
yeah,
like, just write out what are you scared of happening and create a like little mini solution for it. Because
yeah,
then okay, if X happens, I've got Y to fix it. Um, my husband's a big problem solver and I actually love it. So when I come to him with emotion and he's always like, oh yeah, tell me more. I'm like, don't fix the problem. um, I love it because he thinks that way. So he's like, okay, well, if that happens, then we'll just do that. And then we'll do that and we'll do that. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
mm,
We've got a backup plan. Amazing.
yeah, that's good. That's really good. I like that. Um, I guess I may be someone on the same tone. So the little bit of my own experience. So I, for example, back in April, actually was training for a marathon. Kind of hurt my hip a little bit before the marathon. Still attempted to do the marathon, couldn't finish it. Realized I had a stress fracture of my hip, and it was. I'm a fitness trainer, and I was like posting about my goal on social media for 4 months during my training process, and so I was being open about it, and it sucked that it had to end that way.
That's the initiation into running. When
Yeah,
I
yeah.
first did my first long run, I stress fractured both my ankles.
Oh, jeez, that's brutal.
I couldn't walk.
Both of your ankles at the same time?
Yeah. And I didn't even know at the time. Like I was like, oh, I'm good at running. I've always ran. So I ran 20 kilometers in like Reebok Boost or something, some stupid shoe. And I got back and I was like, I feel a little funny. And the next day I just couldn't even walk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's brutal. That's brutal. Well, so anyway, so I did had a stress fracture, but I'm usually pretty good at. I'm a pretty positive guy, so I'm pretty good at flipping scenarios and reframing it in a way that doesn't keep me down for very long. And at the end of the day, like, it was a goal for me, a big goal for me. I had trained for a long time, and it sucked that it had to end that way. But it wasn't like an end all be all goal. I wasn't going to define myself by my marathon time or anything like that. And so I pretty quickly was like, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to show other people how when you get an injury, you can still define success in fitness in other ways. You can still do some things, but it's not going to look the same. And so, but then some people were like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be disappointed. Like, it's okay to feel that. And I was like, I don't really think I just uh, dug or buried those things and was just forcing myself into positivity. I feel like I actually was, but I also don't know. Did I actually just bury certain emotions or not? So I don't know. Give me your feedback on thoughts on being able to just reframe something so that you don't have the negative emotions as much versus needing to process them.
I think it's person dependent,
Mm,
right? Like
yeah.
I think maybe if those people had gone through that experience, it would have been like so devastating to them and they would have felt horrible. But maybe for you, not really. Like everybody's going to have a different emotional experience of an event,
Yeah.
right? Like it's why we have, all those guys went to Vietnam, some came back completely traumatized and some came back just like totally fine. Um, so I would just say it's person dependent. Like the only person who can really know that is you.
Yeah. Totally. And I think it's a it's still probably a worthwhile question for me to ask myself, right? Like, am I just burying this, or am I actually able to just reframe this in a way to where it's not negatively impacting me? And if the answer is I am just able to reframe it, great. If the answer is I'm burying it, then maybe something to look into a little bit further.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you would go back in time to the moment and just think like what came up for me and how did I deal with it?
Yeah.
And like sometimes people are really quick. Like when you get good at this, you become really quick at processing emotions. I mean, something like anger can come up for you and it's like 6 seconds later, it's gone because you noticed it. You're like, oh, I feel angry. And then you're just like taking a deep breath and then it's just gone. And you're back to calibrating back to being what I think baseline for humans is which is just joy. Like humans love to live in the vibration, the emotion of just like joy and connection.
Yeah.
If you take a human being and you completely put them in an environment where there's no stress, they're not going to be angry. They're going to be like having a good time. That's like why we're having fun on vacations.
Hmm.
So it's just all the external noise, and it is so counterculture to how we've been taught. But you do have to let it float through you. You
Yeah.
can't just deflect it, and you also just can't suppress it.
Totally. No, I love how you mentioned, I think it was Joe Dispenza's talks about how emotions are energy in motion. And that's why letting it like flow through you is actually the perfect way to describe it. When it comes to how you practice breath work, I'm assuming that it's probably going to be more day by day is going to be a little bit different. But do you always practice a specific breathwork routine at this time every single morning, or when you first wake up, or is it always just like emotional situation? Is it situational based off of emotions that are coming up? How do you
I
usually?
mean, I'm a mom of two kids, so I don't even go to the bathroom by myself. So no, I'm not laying down and doing like a hour-long breath work every morning. It's definitely situational. For me, the way I tell if I've got to do some like a bigger breath work is stress. So we have a stress cycle in our body that's supposed to be completed with a release of the cortisol. Best way to release cortisol, crying. That's where cortisol can be detoxed from your body. Crying is amazing for that. It reduces your cortisol immediately. If you suppress a cry, like if you go to cry and you suppress it, it increases your cortisol by 30%.
Wow.
So we're getting into kind of what you were saying at the beginning, where we're talking about psychoneuroimmunology. How does your thoughts and emotions affect your immune system or affect your physiology so that it creates disease? You do that long enough, you start suppressing emotions, like kind of holding on to cortisol long enough, you're going to create chronic inflammation. And then dealer's choice. Are you getting cancer? Are you getting heart disease? Are you getting mental health issues? Are you committing suicide? Are you having an autoimmune disease? All of them are studied to link back to the thoughts that people are having and the emotions that they're suppressing. And for me personally, when I start feeling kind of like, "Ugh, I know I'm stressed out, I'm feeling a little bit, not myself, I will go run a bath and I will do a breathwork session, not sympathetic because I don't want to drown. I'll do a breathwork session in the bath, like really create a calm environment and like almost have like a crying appointment.
Yeah.
And I'll just try to feel it. Like I'll put on some music and I try to feel what's going on with me. And, underneath anger for everybody is sadness.
Mm.
So if you just peel it back, you'll find that you're actually just sad. You felt disrespected, you felt grief, whatever it was. And you can just like,
Yeah. Do you think if somebody feels like they need to cry, but they can't cry or are not crying, is it because usually people are jumping to something to distract them and they don't sit in it for long enough? Because I feel like that's probably, I know that's an experience that I've had and probably experience that a lot of people have had. Like you kind of feel like it's time to cry, but like it's not coming out.
yeah, 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 do breath work. Do a sympathetic breath work.
Mm.
It will help you access things that maybe your body has been really, really heavily trained not to access. Like I grew up in the 90s, so if any guy cried, they were immediately bullied and called gay. Like
Yeah.
immediately. So I mean, I'm surrounded by my husband, his friends, my friends who are guys who all had that programming, bullied, bullied, bullied if they felt an emotion. And for them, it's been, a huge task to kind of be like, how can I do this? Because I can't just sit there and be like, all right, cry. Maybe you could watch Marley and Me. I love art, right? Art is an amazing language of emotion. that's what it's there for. There's certain songs that you probably know you could listen to and it would evoke an emotion. So
Yeah.
go into those emotions or that art that evokes emotions for you.
Hmm.
Like I love poetry. Read poetry if you're a poetry person. Watch movies. I would love Interstellar. I watch it. I watch it like twice a year.
It's a good movie to invoke a cry. Yeah. Gosh, when Murph is comes back, oh. Why? Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. That is like one of my favorite movies, and I got to watch it. My wife got to watch it for the first time with me, like a couple months ago, and it was so good. It was so good. One of the things I wanted to actually touch on that I wasn't preparing coming into the interview, but it came up. You said you have a 2 and 3 year old, and you mentioned how you laugh at them all the time. However, I know there's a lot of parents out there who, when they have a 2 and 3 year old, who just annoys and bugs the hell out of them. Like they love them, but obviously, but there's plenty of stuff, plenty of things that they'll do that is very annoying. And I'm sure, like obviously, you have those experiences as well. But from an emotional regulation standpoint, how are you able to more likely laugh at them than get mad at them?
Yeah, it's been a journey. I was not raised in a household where you were laughed with, like if I cried, I was sent to my room. Like I was called a drama queen. I was told like, why are you so sensitive? Like all of those things were shamed. And it's not to put my parent, like put the,
Right.
point fingers at my parents. I'm not blaming them. They were raised in that environment too. They were just doing what they knew. My parents didn't have ChatGPT. They didn't have Instagram. They didn't have parenting books really telling them anything about this. We now today have the research that shows if you want your kids to have good mental health, if you want them to be, successful in different areas of life, you have to hold space for their emotions. They're not manipulating you. They're not being bad because they're crying. It might not seem valid to us for someone to cry about an apple being cut wrong, but for them, it's very valid. That's what they wanted at the time, and they're not getting it, and that hurts. So I think step one for me, just in parenting, understanding like kids and how their brains develop. It's really hard when you understand how a human brain develops. It's hard to be mad at them because you're like,
Mm.
they don't even have a prefrontal cortex. Like they have
Yeah.
no idea. They're not many adults. I see a lot of people getting frustrated because they think kids are manipulating them or they're doing something on purpose, and they're not. They're just being kids. Um, get mantras for yourself. They're just being kids is one of mine.
Yeah.
Another one of mine is this is their house too, because one of the things that triggers me is when they, make big messes in the house. I'm always like, this is actually their house too. Like they can live here.
I gotta need that one.
They can live. Oh yeah, it like anything you may think, I'm a spiritual person, I'm so grounded. And then you're going to have kids and be like, woo, I just wasn't being triggered all the time. So it's all going to come out. And that's the beautiful part about, again, being married and also having kids and just being around other people in general is that they're annoying. But
Yeah.
annoying people is how we heal because they're going to poke holes in all your buttons. They're whatever, you know the analogy. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
they're going to find all those buttons and you
Yeah.
get to choose what you're going to do with them. I'm going to treat this person the same way my dad treated me, or I'm going to do something that actually might help my lineage out a little bit. I want to take, you know, I want my family to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
So that's been my work. Like I come from, you wrote my dad was addicted to opiates. He had abuse and he killed himself. My mom has struggles with grief because she lost her son and her husband. She, works a lot. She's not really in touch with her emotions, doesn't know how to connect with other people really well. So I'm coming from nothing basically, like no amount of like true intimacy to trying to do this thing, not knowing how a marriage works or how a family even functions. And my husband's kind of in the same route. His parents divorced when he was 2. So we are trying to figure this out. But at the end of the day, like if you just rely on the principles of I want to be loving and kind, and I also know that like 99% of the work of parenting is just regulating your own nervous system, you're going to do amazing. And also, you're allowed to mess up. Like we're people. You're probably gonna yell once or twice.
Yeah.
And you can just say, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I should not have done that. And they're gonna be like, that's fine. Like,
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. And the last question I'm going to get to probably here in a second is kind of like flipping the script, how to coach the kids handle their emotions in a healthy manner. But before I do, I want to make sure everybody, you guys, make sure you go check out her on Instagram at Being Method Breathwork. I'll have it linked up in the show notes. Also, make sure you go grab her book, How to Cry, Release Stuck Emotions, and Find Freedom. Like she said, she is such a balance of kind of like the science, the anatomy, the physiology, and the spiritual side of things, what some people would call the woo-woo side of things. But I promise you, like this book, if you are somebody who like feels like you're not gonna like the woo-woo side of things, the book doesn't feel like that when you're reading it. It's it's just an easy read from the standpoint of it's relatable from the emotions, the stories, all that kind of stuff. Very relatable, and I think you guys would really enjoy it. So make sure you go get it, How to Cry, Release Stuck Emotions, and Find Freedom. She also has a podcast called the Being Method Podcast that I'll have linked up in the show notes. But kind of last question I want to get to, MJ, is flipping the script to, like you said, when you grew up in the 90s, when if you cried, you were called gay and you were bullied. And now it is definitely more known that we need to teach kids how to process their emotions in a healthier manner. So how are you have a 2 and 3 year old, so you're working on some of it now, but also they'll be older when it's a little bit more real. How are you planning on coaching them through when they get really mad, when they get really sad, when they get frustrated and angry? How are you planning on coaching them through those types of things to process them in a much better manner than maybe some of us who grew up in the 90s did?
Step one, take care of you. Like you can't raise someone if you haven't raised yourself.
Mm.
So if they're not watching you do it, they're not going to do it. You can't be the person who's, screaming in traffic, yelling at your wife or husband, yelling at your kids, and then expecting them to somehow do something different. Like, I went away with my mom in the summer and my son, I can't remember quite what he did. I think he hit my mom, and then my mom told him that she was going to spank him. And I was like, guys, like I just found it. She didn't. My mom was just in that moment of feeling really frustrated, feeling really disrespected by a 2-year-old. And she was like, "Oh, Bowie, I'll spank you." And I was like, "Yeah, hit him. That'll teach him not to hit." Are you guys just going to do it back and forth? Because like someone has to be the adult, right? And that's got to be us. So we've got to be calm, show them how to be in the world. We've got to show them that we know how to do it. And that means kind of letting them in a little bit, like let them into like experiencing, I'm frustrated right now. This is what I'm going to do. I feel really sad. I'm feeling kind of sad today. I'm going to go have some alone time, have some quiet time, maybe have a bath. I'm like always really open with my kids about how I'm feeling, not in the way where I'm parentifying them, but just letting them know like I'm a person and we feel emotions and that's okay. We always tell them if they're feeling things, it's okay to cry. We say pretty much 100 times a day because we have 2 toddlers. It's okay to be angry. You cannot hit. You cannot throw. You cannot karate kick. But it's okay to be angry.
I mean, like we talked about earlier, it's teaching them that emotions don't have to control your actions, that they're creating a space between those
Yeah.
two
I mean,
things.
if you can be raised in an environment where you are free to feel something and it's not going to affect the other person around you, you're like winning the lottery
Yeah.
because a lot of us are raised in a way where we don't feel comfortable feeling something ourselves because someone else is going to judge us. So
Yeah.
then we go out in the world, we're trying to date, we're trying to build a family, we're trying to work with other people, have best friends, and we don't know how to connect. But the crux of connection is intimacy and vulnerability. So it's really the antithesis of having the best thing in life, which is people around you that you love.
I think it's important to, for me, as I'm listening to this, I feel like there are some times when I have people close to me, whether it's my wife or a different family member or whatnot, when they have an emotion, I sometimes are like, why are you feeling that way? Like look at it differently. Like it's not, and that's not the right way to approach it. It's like, don't criticize the emotion, maybe talk through the emotion and like, encourage them to do breath work or whatever. And just don't let the emotion overcome their actions.
Yeah, like if you can breathe yourself into a place of being I'm telling you, I see people have emotions all the time that I don't understand. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't get that. It's not my trauma, right? I
Yeah.
don't have that. Um, but it's valid. They're having it. It's a valid emotion. And
Mm,
some of the stuff that I might have would seem totally irrational to someone else. Emotions
right.
are not rational. So if you can just, I think the best gift you can give someone when they're having an emotion is not getting attached to what's going on with them at all, but just being this like calm presence and getting curious.
Yeah. All right, I got some things to work on.
Yeah. I mean, we all do.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is great. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode and the conversation. This has been super fascinating and uh, emboldening me to work on some things myself, and I hope for you as well, and some giving you specific tools and breath work to think about, or not, I guess not think about, feel your way through some of these emotions. But make sure you go follow her on Instagram at Being Method Breathwork. Make sure you go check out her book, How to Cry, Release Stuck Emotions, and Find Freedom. Any last words that you have before we round this out?
Yeah, just say, just open your heart. It's not scary. And it heals the world.
Mm.
Like I think, so many of the things that happen in the world that are negative things are usually from people who have some stuck emotions, some trauma they got to release. And that's my vision for my whole business is just like I want as many people releasing that stuff and just going full hippie here, group hugging as possible.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. All right, you guys. Well, if you're listening on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify, make sure you hit the follow button. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe down below. Go grab her book. Go follow her on Instagram. It'll be in the show notes and description down below. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. That's all we got. Appreciate it, MJ.
Thank you.